What if I told you that in just 21 days you could begin to rewrite your entire story? Imagine waking up not as the person burdened by yesterday, but as the architect of a brand new tomorrow. Have you ever wondered why some people break free, rise higher, and glow with unstoppable confidence, while others remain stuck in the same cycles? The truth is, reinvention is not magic, it's a choice, a commitment, and a rule of transformation that anyone can follow. Over the next 21 days, you'll discover not who you've been, but who you're meant to become. Change begins the moment you decide yesterday no longer defines you, because the weight of the past is only as heavy as you allow it to be. Too often, people carry old mistakes, regrets, and missed opportunities like chains, dragging them forward into each new day. But the truth is, yesterday has no power unless you hand it over willingly. The second you make the decision that your past no longer writes your future, you unlock the door to transformation. Every setback becomes a lesson rather than a limitation, and every scar becomes a reminder of your resilience instead of your weakness. Imagine standing at the edge of today, with yesterday behind you and tomorrow waiting for you to step in with courage. Reinvention doesn't require a perfect history, it requires a present moment of decision. When you release the grip of old narratives, you free yourself to rewrite your identity. The mind begins to shift, the body begins to follow, and the heart starts to believe again. What once felt like a permanent label becomes nothing more than a chapter, not the entire book. Change doesn't demand that you erase your past, but that you refuse to let it hold authority over who you are now. In that moment of choice, you stand taller, you breathe deeper, and you realize that you are not broken, you are becoming. Yesterday can no longer haunt you because you've chosen to meet it with acceptance and then let it go. This single act of courage, deciding to no longer be defined by what once was, is the spark that ignites reinvention, and it is within your control right now. Discipline for 21 days creates habits that last for years, because the human mind and body are wired to adapt to repetition. Every time you commit to a consistent action, you train your brain to recognize it as part of your identity. At first, discipline feels uncomfortable, even forced, but with each day that passes, the resistance begins to weaken and the action becomes familiar. By the end of 21 days, what once felt like effort begins to feel natural, almost automatic. This is the secret to long-term transformation, not waiting for motivation, but showing up with discipline until motivation is no longer needed. Think of a muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it grows, and habits work in the same way. Discipline is the exercise that strengthens the muscle of consistency, carving out a new path in your life. 21 days may seem short, but it is long enough for your brain to accept new behaviors and begin embedding them into your daily rhythm. Waking up early, eating healthier, exercising, meditating, or focusing on personal growth, whatever the habit may be, can become part of who you are if you give it those 3 dedicated weeks. The beauty is that once the habit is formed, it requires less effort to maintain, because it is no longer something you do, it becomes something you are. Discipline in those initial 21 days is the bridge between who you are now and who you want to be, and the more you honor that commitment, the more unshakable your new identity becomes. Years later, you'll look back and realize that what changed your life forever wasn't a single burst of inspiration, but the decision to stay consistent for 21 days. Small, consistent actions reshape your identity faster than big bursts, because transformation is not built on occasional effort, but on steady repetition. When you try to change your life through sudden, overwhelming pushes, you often exhaust yourself and fall back into old patterns. But when you commit to small daily steps, they become part of your rhythm, creating a foundation that lasts. A single workout won't make you fit, but moving your body every day teaches you that you are someone who values health. Writing a page daily won't finish a book overnight, but it ingrains in your mind that you are a writer. These small actions carry powerful psychological weight because they consistently reaffirm who you are becoming. Each step tells your brain, "This is who I am now," and over time, the identity solidifies. Big bursts of effort can spark excitement, but they rarely last because they rely on temporary energy rather than sustainable structure. The real magic lies in doing the small things even when they feel insignificant, because the compound effect of consistency is what creates transformation. Like drops of water carving stone, small actions repeated over time reshape not just habits but self-perception. They build trust within yourself. You begin to see that you can rely on your own word, and that trust is the core of identity change. The power of small, consistent actions is that they don't require perfection or overwhelming willpower, they only ask for persistence. Over weeks and months, they accumulate into momentum that feels unstoppable, and your new identity becomes undeniable. You are no longer someone trying to change. You are someone who has changed. One small step at a time. Reinvention is not becoming someone new. It's uncovering who you truly are, because at your core, the essence of your potential has always been there. Life, with its expectations, pressures, and labels, often buries your true self under layers of fear, doubt, and conformity. You begin to believe you must transform into a completely different person, but reinvention is not about abandoning yourself. It's about peeling back the layers that never belonged to you. It's rediscovering the passions you once silenced, the strengths you once underestimated, and the dreams you once thought were impossible. When you reinvent yourself, you're not fabricating a new identity, you're aligning with the truest version of your soul. Think of it as polishing a diamond that has been covered in dust. The brilliance was always there, waiting to shine. The process is not about chasing an ideal of perfection, but about returning to authenticity, about remembering what makes you feel alive, and giving yourself permission to live it fully. Reinvention is powerful because it shifts your focus from external validation to inner alignment, and when you live in harmony with who you really are, confidence flows naturally. You stop imitating others and start embracing your uniqueness. The more you uncover, the freer you feel, because nothing is heavier than pretending to be someone you are not. Every step in your reinvention journey is not an addition but a revelation, not a construction but a discovery. You realize that you've always carried the answers, the strength, and the vision inside you. It simply took courage and honesty to see them again. Reinvention is the art of finally meeting yourself and allowing that true self to lead your life without fear. Each sunrise is a reset button. Use it wisely, because every morning offers you a fresh chance to rewrite your story. No matter how heavy yesterday felt, the rising sun reminds you that a new chapter begins with today. Too often, we carry the weight of past mistakes, missed opportunities, or unfulfilled promises into the present, forgetting that life renews itself daily. Each sunrise whispers that you are not bound to repeat yesterday's patterns unless you choose to. It is nature's invitation to begin again, to approach your goals, your dreams, and your relationships with renewed energy and perspective. The power of a sunrise lies in its consistency. It never fails to arrive, reminding you that hope and opportunity are constant, even when life feels uncertain. When you treat the morning as a reset, you give yourself permission to leave behind regret and step forward with clarity. It becomes a moment to decide who you will be today, how you will show up, and what you will create. The choices you make in those early hours can set the tone for everything that follows, which is why mornings are sacred ground for reinvention. Starting fresh doesn't require dramatic actions, it requires intention. Even the smallest shift, a new thought, a healthier choice, a kinder word, can ripple through your entire day and ultimately through your entire life. Each sunrise carries the quiet promise that it is not too late, that your story is still being written, and that you have the power to choose the direction it takes. By seeing each day as a reset button, you stop being a prisoner of the past and become an active creator of the future you desire. Growth begins where your comfort zone ends, because true transformation never happens in the places where everything feels safe and predictable. The comfort zone is tempting. It offers familiarity, ease, and the illusion of security, but it also traps you in cycles that keep you from reaching your full potential. When you step beyond its borders, you invite challenge, uncertainty, and even fear, but it is in those very moments of discomfort that your capacity expands. Every time you push past what feels familiar, you stretch your limits and prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you believed. Think about the first time you tried something new, nervous, uncertain, maybe even doubting yourself. Yet once you moved through it, you emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident. That is growth. It doesn't happen by repeating what you already know. It happens by embracing what you don't yet understand. Outside your comfort zone, you discover skills you never practiced, resilience you never tested, and strength you never measured. Discomfort is the teacher that shapes character, while challenge is the path that builds courage. Each time you choose growth over comfort, you rewire your mind to see fear not as a barrier, but as a sign you're on the right path. The unknown transforms from something to avoid into something to explore, and with each step your world expands. The comfort zone may feel safe, but it is also where dreams go to sleep. Beyond it lies the version of you who is bolder, braver, and fully alive. Growth begins when you decide that ease is no longer enough, and that becoming who you're meant to be is worth the discomfort required to get there. Forgive your past. It cannot hold you unless you hold it, because the memories of what has been only have power when you keep feeding them with regret, anger, or shame. The past is unchangeable, yet so many people relive it daily, as if replaying the same scenes could alter the outcome. Forgiveness is the act of releasing yourself from that endless loop, choosing to see the past as a lesson instead of a life sentence. When you forgive yourself for the mistakes you made, you free up space to grow into the person you were always meant to become. Carrying guilt or resentment is like walking forward with a heavy backpack. You can still move, but every step is harder than it needs to be. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means refusing to let what happened yesterday dictate the choices you make today. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength, because it takes courage to release pain and embrace freedom. By forgiving your past, you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your peace of mind. It is an act of self-love, a declaration that you deserve to move forward unchained. Sometimes, forgiveness also means extending grace to others who hurt you, not to excuse them, but to liberate yourself from the bitterness that keeps you tied to them. Life is too short to keep dragging yesterday's shadows into today's light. The moment you forgive, the grip of the past loosens, and you discover that the prison door was never locked. You were always holding the key. When you stop holding on, the past cannot hold you, and in that release, you find the freedom to step boldly into the future that is waiting for you. Your environment shapes you. Curate it with intention, because the spaces you live in, the people you surround yourself with, and the energy you allow around you all quietly influence who you become. Your surroundings are like invisible hands, guiding your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without you even realizing it. When your environment is filled with negativity, clutter, or people who drain your spirit, it becomes harder to rise above and create the life you want. But when you consciously design your space and circle, you set yourself up for growth, peace, and alignment. Imagine walking into a room that inspires focus, calm, and creativity versus stepping into a place that feels chaotic and heavy. The difference in how you feel and perform is undeniable. The same is true for the relationships in your life. The people you spend the most time with will either lift you higher or hold you back. Curating your environment means being intentional with what and who you allow into your daily orbit. It means surrounding yourself with reminders of your goals, with tools that make success easier, and with people who believe in your potential. It also means removing distractions, toxic influences, and environments that no longer reflect the person you are becoming. Every choice you make about your surroundings either supports your reinvention or sabotages it. Growth is not just about what you do internally, it's also about what you allow externally. By shaping your environment with care, you build a foundation that naturally encourages the best version of you to thrive. Your environment will always influence you, but when you curate it with intention, it becomes a silent partner in your transformation, making success not just possible but inevitable. Energy flows where focus goes. Focus on your future, not fears, because whatever you give your attention to expands in your life. When your mind constantly replays worries, doubts, and worst-case scenarios, you feed them with energy until they feel bigger than they truly are. Fear thrives on attention, but the moment you redirect your focus toward your goals, your vision, and the possibilities ahead, you begin to starve fear of its power. The truth is, your energy is limited, and every day you decide where to invest it. If you spend it on fear, you create barriers. If you spend it on your future, you create breakthroughs. The future is built not by obsessing over what might go wrong, but by consistently imagining what can go right. Focus acts like a magnifying glass. It intensifies whatever you point it toward. When you keep your eyes fixed on your dreams, your choices, habits, and mindset naturally align with them. Even challenges start to look like stepping stones rather than obstacles, because your energy is directed toward building rather than worrying. Focusing on your future doesn't mean ignoring fear, it means refusing to let fear drive the direction of your life. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" shift to, "What if I succeed?" That one change in focus unlocks creativity, resilience, and courage. Every great achievement in history began with someone choosing to focus on the future they wanted rather than the fear in front of them. Your future is calling, and it needs your energy, your belief, and your unwavering attention. The more you nurture it with focus, the more momentum you create, and soon your future becomes stronger than your fears. To reinvent yourself, change the story you tell yourself daily. Because the narratives you repeat in your mind shape the identity you live out in the world. Every thought you hold and every belief you reinforce becomes a script that directs your actions, decisions, and even the way you see possibilities. If your inner story says you are not good enough, not capable, or destined to fail, your behavior will align with that belief and life will mirror it back to you. But the moment you begin telling yourself a new story, one filled with strength, resilience, and possibility, you start shifting your entire reality. Reinvention begins in the mind long before it shows in your actions. Each day is a chance to reframe the way you see yourself, no longer as someone bound by mistakes or limitations, but as someone growing, learning, and moving forward. Daily affirmations, intentional self-talk, and conscious thought patterns create momentum because repetition rewires the brain. The story you choose to tell yourself every morning becomes the foundation of who you show up as throughout the day. This is why consistency matters. A single thought may pass, but repeated thoughts become beliefs, and beliefs solidify into identity. You don't have to create a fictional story, you only need to highlight the truths you've ignored, your strengths, your victories, your potential. The more you speak them, the more you believe them, and the more your actions align with them. Reinventing yourself is not about pretending, it's about rewriting the outdated script that no longer serves you and replacing it with one that reflects who you want to become. Change the story. Repeat it daily and watch your identity transform before your eyes. Replace excuses with execution. Your life responds to action, because no matter how compelling your reasons may sound in your head, excuses never move you forward. They are comfortable shields, crafted to protect you from discomfort, risk, or failure, yet all they truly do is keep you stuck in the same place. Excuses feel safe because they let you off the hook, but they silently drain your potential. Execution, on the other hand, is the bridge between dreams and reality. Every idea, every vision, every desire you hold remains meaningless until it is backed by decisive action. When you replace excuses with execution, you send a powerful message to yourself that you value progress over perfection, effort over avoidance, and courage over fear. Life rewards movement, not hesitation. Each step you take, no matter how small, shifts your momentum, teaches you lessons, and builds your confidence. Excuses create stagnation, execution creates transformation. You can justify why you're not ready, why the timing isn't right, or why the obstacles are too great, but those justifications will never bring change. What brings change is action taken in spite of the reasons not to. Execution doesn't demand that you have everything figured out, it only asks that you begin. The act of doing reshapes the path ahead, because clarity often comes through movement, not through endless planning. When you act, you gather experience. When you act, you prove to yourself that fear doesn't have the final word. When you act, you create results, sometimes small, sometimes life-changing, but always more than excuses will ever give you. Your life is constantly responding to your choices, and it does not respond to excuses. It responds to what you do, not what you intend. Every time you choose execution over hesitation, you shift the trajectory of your future. The results you crave are waiting, not for the perfect moment, but for your willingness to act now. Replace excuses with execution, because excuses preserve the life you want to leave behind. While execution builds the life you've been dreaming of all along, your words create your world. Speak the version of you want, because language is not just a tool for communication, it is a mirror of your beliefs and a seed for your reality. The words you use shape the way you think, and the way you think directs the way you act. When you constantly speak of limitations, struggle, or doubt, you reinforce those experiences in your life. But when you choose to speak words of strength, vision, and possibility, you begin aligning yourself with a higher version of who you are becoming. Words carry energy, and every statement you repeat plants a seed in your subconscious mind, which grows into the reality you live. Think about the difference between saying, "I can't do this," and "I am learning to do this." The first sentence closes the door, while the second opens one. Your subconscious listens closely to the language you feed it and acts accordingly. By choosing empowering words, you gradually reprogram your beliefs. You are no longer speaking from the perspective of fear or failure, but from the perspective of growth and success. This shift in language alters the way you show up in the world. You become more confident, more willing to take risks, and more consistent in your actions. Because your words have already paved the path in your mind, the power of words extends beyond self-talk. The way you speak to others influences the opportunities and relationships you attract. Words of kindness, encouragement, and clarity invite connection, while words of negativity and doubt push people away. The version of yourself you want to live as must first be spoken into existence. Speak as if you are already that person, capable, resilient, and unstoppable. Let your words reflect the vision you hold rather than the fears you carry. Every day you have the choice to speak life into your dreams or drain them with careless language. When you understand that your words are creative forces, you no longer waste them on defeat. Instead, you use them with intention, speaking a future that excites you and an identity that empowers you. Your world begins to mirror the language you choose, and the more you speak your vision, the more you live it. Invest in routines, not moods. Discipline outlasts emotion, because feelings are fleeting, unpredictable, and often unreliable, while routines are steady structures that anchor your progress. On days when motivation runs high, taking action feels easy. But what happens when you wake up tired, stressed, or uninspired? If your success depends on mood alone, your journey will be inconsistent and fragile. That is why routines are essential. They transform action into habit and remove the need to negotiate with your emotions every day. When you build a routine, you create a system that carries you forward regardless of how you feel in the moment. Discipline is the silent force that reinforces these routines. It is not about being harsh with yourself, but about honoring the commitments you've made to your growth. Discipline whispers, "Do it anyway," even when your mood says, "Not today." Over time, this consistent follow-through builds momentum, confidence, and results that far outweigh anything temporary emotions could deliver. Routines make success less about willpower and more about structure. Just as brushing your teeth doesn't require motivation, the habits you ingrain into your daily rhythm eventually feel automatic, freeing you from constant internal battles. Investing in routines also protects you from the roller coaster of highs and lows. When life feels overwhelming, your routine becomes a stabilizer, reminding you that progress doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency. Even small, repeated actions compound over time, leading to extraordinary transformation. This is why the most successful people in any field rely on disciplined routines rather than waiting for inspiration. They understand that emotions can be unpredictable, but routines create reliability. By focusing on discipline-driven routines, you ensure that your goals are not at the mercy of your moods. You stop relying on fleeting sparks of motivation and instead build systems that guarantee steady growth. Over time, discipline becomes less of a struggle and more of a trusted ally, carrying you through challenges and keeping you aligned with your vision. When you invest in routines, you invest in a future where progress is inevitable because discipline always outlasts emotion. Challenge yourself daily. Discomfort is the birthplace of growth because every meaningful transformation requires you to step into spaces that test your limits. Comfort may feel safe, but it is also where stagnation quietly settles in. The truth is, the life you desire is always just beyond what feels familiar. By intentionally challenging yourself each day, you train your mind and body to adapt, to stretch, and to expand into new possibilities. Growth doesn't come from repeating what you already know. It comes from daring to face what you don't yet understand or what feels intimidating. Discomfort is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence that you are moving into new territory. Every skill you now possess was once uncomfortable. Think back to the first time you tried something new, driving a car, speaking in front of others, or even forming a new habit. At first, it felt awkward, maybe even frightening, but with repetition and persistence, it became second nature. The same principle applies to every area of your life. Discomfort is the training ground where confidence is built, resilience is strengthened, and potential is revealed. When you challenge yourself daily, the size of the challenge doesn't matter as much as the consistency. It might be waking up earlier, having a difficult conversation, pushing your body during exercise, or committing to a new skill. Each act of challenge expands your capacity and rewires your brain to see obstacles not as threats but as opportunities. You begin to recognize that the very discomfort you once avoided is the fuel that propels you forward. The key is to embrace discomfort as a necessary part of the process rather than something to fear. Each time you lean into it, you are proving to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. Over time, what once felt uncomfortable becomes comfortable, and the cycle continues as you push toward greater heights. Challenge is the catalyst, discomfort is the teacher, and growth is the reward. By seeking daily challenges, you step into a life of continuous evolution, where every stretch beyond comfort becomes another step toward the person you are destined to be. Reinvention thrives on clarity. Define who you want to be, because without a clear vision, transformation becomes scattered and directionless. Many people desire change, but they stop at vague wishes like wanting to be happier, more successful, or more confident. These intentions, while positive, lack the precision needed to create lasting results. Clarity is the compass of reinvention. It sharpens your focus, aligns your actions, and eliminates the distractions that pull you back into old patterns. When you clearly define who you want to be, you give your mind a specific target, and the subconscious begins working toward it with powerful intention. Imagine walking through fog. You may move, but without clarity, you drift aimlessly. Now imagine walking with a clear map and destination. You conserve energy, make deliberate choices, and reach your goals faster. Reinvention works the same way. The clearer your definition of the person you want to become, the easier it becomes to take aligned actions each day. Clarity also builds accountability. When you know exactly what your future self looks like, you can measure whether your current actions are bringing you closer or pulling you further away. Defining who you want to be is not about perfection, it's about alignment. It means asking yourself powerful questions. What values do I want to embody? What habits define the version of me I'm becoming? How do I want others to experience me? By answering these with honesty, you begin to sketch a blueprint for your reinvention. Each choice you make afterward becomes intentional, guided by the clarity of that vision. Clarity is also liberating because it cuts through noise and comparison. When you know who you want to be, you stop chasing trends or imitating others. Instead, you focus on building a life authentic to you. Reinvention thrives not when you attempt to become someone else, but when you deliberately shape yourself into the clearest, strongest version of who you are meant to be. Defining that vision gives your reinvention momentum, direction, and the certainty that every step you take is shaping the life you truly desire. Progress, not perfection, is the true goal, because the pursuit of flawlessness often becomes the very obstacle that prevents you from moving forward. Perfection creates pressure, an illusion of an unreachable standard that leaves you paralyzed, hesitant, and constantly critical of yourself. Progress, on the other hand, is liberating. It acknowledges that every step, no matter how small, carries you closer to your vision. The power of progress lies in its consistency, in the steady accumulation of effort that compounds over time into meaningful transformation. When you shift your focus from being perfect to simply improving, you free yourself to take action without fear of failure. Perfection demands flawless execution, but progress celebrates effort, learning, and growth. Every attempt, even the messy ones, is valuable because it teaches you something new and strengthens your resilience. Progress allows room for mistakes, and within those mistakes, wisdom is born. Perfection tells you not to start until conditions are ideal, while progress urges you to begin now, to build momentum, and to trust that the journey itself will refine you. When you measure yourself by progress, you begin to see victories in places you once overlooked. Choosing healthier meals, completing 5 minutes of meditation, or writing a single page may seem insignificant in isolation, but strung together over time, these steps lead to lasting change. Progress is about becoming slightly better today than you were yesterday, and repeating that process until the improvement compounds into transformation. The pursuit of progress also nurtures patience and self-compassion. Instead of tearing yourself down for not being perfect, you learn to celebrate how far you've come and stay motivated to keep moving. This mindset shift creates momentum because progress builds confidence, and confidence fuels more progress. Life does not reward perfection, it rewards persistence, effort, and the courage to keep going despite imperfections. Progress honors the process, not just the outcome, and it ensures that you remain in motion, constantly evolving into a stronger, wiser, and more capable version of yourself. Your circle determines your ceiling. Surround yourself with lifters, because the people closest to you shape your mindset, influence your habits, and either elevate or limit your potential. Human beings are wired to adapt to the environments they are in, and your circle is the most powerful environment you will ever choose. If you spend time with people who complain, settle, and avoid growth, their energy will quietly pull you into the same patterns. But when you surround yourself with lifters, those who inspire, challenge, and support you, you naturally rise to meet higher standards. Their vision expands your own, their belief in you strengthens your confidence, and their actions push you to aim further than you would alone. Your circle acts as a mirror, reflecting back the level you accept as normal. If your circle normalizes mediocrity, you may feel guilty for wanting more. If your circle normalizes excellence, growth, and resilience, you feel encouraged to pursue your best self. This is why choosing the right people is not just about companionship, it is about destiny. Lifters are not necessarily those who tell you only what you want to hear, but those who remind you of your potential, even when you doubt yourself. They hold you accountable, celebrate your wins, and stand beside you when challenges arise. Surrounding yourself with lifters doesn't mean cutting people off harshly, but it does mean protecting your energy. It means being intentional about who you give access to your time, attention, and trust. Seek mentors who have walked the path you aspire to, friends who cheer for your success without envy, and communities that share your values and vision. When your circle is filled with lifters, their momentum becomes contagious. The truth is, no one achieves greatness entirely alone. We rise higher when we are lifted by others who believe in growth, possibility, and progress. Your ceiling, the level of success and fulfillment you can reach, is expanded by the people who surround you. When you choose lifters, you not only climb higher, but you also learn to become a lifter yourself, inspiring others to rise with you. Mindset is your master key. Unlock new doors with it, because the way you think shapes the way you live. Every belief you hold, every story you tell yourself, and every perspective you choose acts like a filter through which you see the world. A closed mindset builds invisible walls, convincing you that opportunities are limited, that failure defines you, and that your circumstances control your destiny. But a growth mindset breaks those walls, turning challenges into teachers, failures into stepping stones, and limitations into opportunities for reinvention. The same situation can either be a barrier or a breakthrough depending entirely on the mindset you bring to it. Your mindset is the master key because it determines what doors you even notice, let alone attempt to open. A person with a fixed mindset may see a locked door and walk away, believing it will never open. A person with a growth mindset sees the same door and looks for the key, knocks until it answers, or builds another way in. This is the power of perspective. It shapes action, and action shapes results. The beauty of mindset is that it is within your control. You may not be able to choose every circumstance, but you can choose how you interpret and respond to it. By feeding your mind with empowering thoughts, uplifting words, and continuous learning, you reprogram yourself to see abundance where others see lack. This shift opens doors to opportunities that once seemed unreachable because you now believe you are capable of walking through them. Developing the right mindset is not about denying difficulties, but about facing them with resilience and faith. When your mind believes solutions exist, you keep moving until you find them. When your mind believes growth is possible, you keep stretching until you experience it. That is why your mindset is the ultimate master key. It unlocks the courage to try, the patience to persist, and the vision to see doors where others only see walls. Gratitude is fuel. Appreciate the journey while building the future, because without gratitude, even the greatest victories will feel empty. When you pause to acknowledge the blessings already present in your life, you shift your energy from lack to abundance, from stress to peace, from striving to thriving. Gratitude does not mean you stop chasing growth, but it ensures that while you are building the future, you are not blind to the beauty of the present. Every step forward becomes more meaningful when you recognize the lessons, people, and opportunities that are already part of your story. Gratitude is a powerful source of fuel because it transforms your mindset. A grateful heart sees possibilities where others see problems, finds joy in small moments, and builds resilience in the face of setbacks. It prevents you from becoming consumed by comparison, reminding you that your path is unique and valuable. Instead of fixating on what you lack, gratitude reminds you of how far you have come, how much you have grown, and how much is still possible. This shift in focus keeps you motivated without burning out, because you are no longer running on frustration, you are moving forward on appreciation. When you integrate gratitude into your daily life, every part of the journey feels purposeful. The challenges become stepping stones because you are grateful for the growth they bring. The wins feel sweeter because you take time to savor them. Even the waiting seasons carry meaning because gratitude allows you to trust that progress is unfolding even when it's not immediately visible. Practicing gratitude doesn't require grand gestures. It begins with noticing. Noticing the sunrise that marks a fresh start, the encouragement of a friend, the strength to keep going, or even the chance to try again after failure. By acknowledging these moments, you amplify their power and create a mindset that naturally attracts more to be grateful for. Gratitude becomes a cycle. The more you appreciate, the more you receive, and the more energy you have to keep moving toward the future you are building. It keeps you grounded in the now while pulling you toward what's next with strength and clarity. Reinvention starts with one powerful decision, not 100 plans, because transformation is born in moments of clarity, not endless strategies. You can spend months mapping out steps, analyzing every option, or waiting for the perfect timing, but none of it matters until you choose. That single choice, to rise above your past, to no longer settle, to move toward the future you desire, becomes the spark that ignites change. It is not the complexity of the plan that fuels reinvention. It is the strength of the decision that anchors it. Once the decision is made, the path reveals itself step by step. The power of one decision lies in its ability to shift identity instantly. When you declare, "This is who I am now," you no longer align with the old patterns that held you back. The decision becomes a dividing line between who you were and who you are becoming. Even if you don't yet know every action to take, the clarity of that choice starts reshaping your thoughts, habits, and energy. The world responds differently to someone who has decided, because decision radiates confidence and conviction. Many people get trapped in overplanning, mistaking preparation for progress. They create endless lists, wait for motivation, and hesitate until the opportunity has passed. Reinvention requires courage, not perfect conditions. That first bold decision is the doorway. You may not see the whole house yet, but stepping through opens a new reality. Each small action afterward builds momentum, but none of it happens without that initial leap of commitment. A powerful decision doesn't mean you won't stumble. It means you will no longer turn back. It anchors you when doubt rises and pushes you forward when fear whispers. It transforms uncertainty into possibility because your identity has shifted from maybe to I will. That is why reinvention begins not with 100 plans that scatter your focus, but with one choice that aligns your heart, mind, and actions toward a new direction. From that moment on, every step you take is guided by the power of that single decision, and it is enough to change the course of your entire life. Celebrate every small win. It compounds into transformation, because greatness is never built in a single leap, but in a series of steady steps that seem insignificant in the moment yet monumental over time. Every time you honor a small achievement, you send a powerful signal to your mind that progress is happening, that you are moving forward, and that your efforts matter. This recognition fuels motivation, keeps momentum alive, and prevents you from giving up when the journey feels long. Too often, people wait for the big breakthrough before allowing themselves to feel proud. But the truth is, those breakthroughs are the result of hundreds of small victories stacked one upon another. When you celebrate small wins, you shift your focus from what is missing to what is already being accomplished. You may not have reached the final vision yet, but you are closer than yesterday, and that is worth acknowledging. Each workout completed, each task checked off, each moment of discipline upheld becomes a brick in the foundation of your reinvention. By appreciating them, you strengthen the habits and behaviors that create long-term change. What you celebrate, you reinforce, and what you reinforce becomes part of your identity. Celebration doesn't always need to be grand. It can be as simple as pausing to reflect, expressing gratitude, or giving yourself words of encouragement. The act of acknowledgement itself is what creates the shift. It tells your brain to associate positive emotions with progress, which makes you more likely to keep going. Over time, these celebrations compound, building confidence, resilience, and a deep trust in yourself. Instead of doubting your ability to reach your goals, you begin to see undeniable proof of your capacity to grow. Small wins are also powerful because they create visible evidence of transformation in motion. When you look back, you may realize that the mountain you've climbed was not conquered in one giant step, but through countless small strides that you once dismissed as too minor to matter. Every decision to keep moving, even when it felt hard, was a victory worth celebrating. Without them, the transformation would never have taken shape. The compounding effect of small wins is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Big goals can feel overwhelming, but breaking them down into manageable actions and then celebrating each completed step transforms the impossible into the inevitable. Progress becomes addictive, not because of the final destination, but because you learn to value the journey itself. Celebrating small wins builds a mindset that sees growth in every effort and strength in every step. It keeps you connected to the truth that transformation is not one grand event, but a daily practice of choosing, acting, and appreciating. In the end, it is the consistent honoring of small wins that adds up to extraordinary change. Say no more often. To protect your energy and focus, because every yes you give is a commitment of your time, your attention, and your strength. Too often, people drain themselves by saying yes to everything. Yes to obligations that don't serve their goals, yes to distractions that steal their focus, yes to relationships that take more than they give. The truth is, your energy is a limited resource, and if you spend it on what doesn't matter, you will have nothing left for what truly does. Learning to say no is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of self-respect and clarity. When you say no to the unnecessary, you create space for the meaningful. You open room for your priorities to thrive and for your vision to receive the best of you instead of the leftovers. Every successful reinvention, every powerful transformation requires the discipline to guard your focus like a treasure. That means recognizing that not all requests, opportunities, or invitations are aligned with the life you are building. By saying no, you are not closing doors, you are choosing which doors are worth walking through. Saying no also strengthens your identity. Each time you decline something that doesn't align with your values, you reinforce the version of yourself you are becoming. You send a message to your own mind that you are intentional, disciplined, and in control of your path. This builds confidence because you stop living reactively, pulled in every direction by others, and start living proactively, guided by your own compass. It is not always easy to say no. Fear of disappointing others, missing out, or being judged can pressure you into saying yes when your heart says no. But the cost of people pleasing is burnout, frustration, and a life misaligned with your true desires. The people who truly value you will respect your boundaries, and those who don't were never supportive of your growth in the first place. Protecting your energy means you show up more fully and authentically in the areas where you do choose to say yes. Every no is also a yes in disguise. When you say no to distractions, you are saying yes to focus. When you say no to toxic environments, you are saying yes to peace. When you say no to overcommitment, you are saying yes to balance and presence. This shift in perspective allows you to see no as a tool of empowerment rather than rejection. In the end, learning to say no more often is about reclaiming ownership of your life. It is about choosing where your energy flows and ensuring that it aligns with your vision, values, and goals. Protecting your focus is not optional. It is essential if you want to create a life of meaning, growth, and lasting transformation. Self-belief is the foundation. Without it, no rule works because every strategy, every plan, and every piece of advice will crumble if you secretly doubt your own ability to rise. Belief is the root from which action grows. It is the quiet voice inside that says, "I can," even when circumstances scream otherwise. Without it, discipline feels like punishment, routines feel like burdens, and challenges feel impossible. With it, even the hardest obstacles become stepping stones because you trust that you have what it takes to push through. Self-belief is not arrogance, it is alignment with your potential. It is the deep understanding that you are capable of learning, growing, and becoming more than your past suggests. Many people chase external validation, waiting for others to confirm their worth before they act. But the truth is, no rule or system can substitute for inner conviction. You can follow the 21-day habit-building formula, adopt strict discipline, or surround yourself with mentors, but if you do not believe you deserve transformation, you will sabotage yourself before results can take root. Self-belief is the soil in which every method plants its seeds. Without healthy soil, even the best seeds fail to grow. Belief shapes perception, and perception shapes reality. Two people can face the same challenge. One who believes in themselves sees an opportunity to learn, while the one who doubts sees confirmation of failure. The difference is not in the obstacle, but in the lens through which it is viewed. That is why cultivating self-belief is the most critical step in reinvention. It is the anchor that steadies you in doubt, the compass that guides you when direction feels unclear, and the fire that keeps burning when results take longer than expected. Self-belief is strengthened through action. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you prove that your word has power. Every time you rise after stumbling, you confirm that setbacks are temporary. These moments compound, creating undeniable evidence that you are stronger than you once thought. The key is to start where you are, to act despite fear, and to let each small success build the foundation of greater confidence. The world often reflects back to you the level of belief you carry within. When you walk with quiet confidence, opportunities seem to appear, people respect your presence, and momentum gathers around your goals. This is not magic. It is alignment between your inner conviction and your outer action. No rule, no framework, and no timeline will ever work without belief at the core. Belief gives power to discipline, consistency to habits, and resilience to setbacks. It is the invisible force that turns dreams into decisions and decisions into reality. Without it, everything collapses, but with it, everything becomes possible. Reinvention means breaking your own patterns, not chasing trends, because true transformation is not about following what the world tells you to be, but about freeing yourself from the cycles that keep you stuck. Trends are fleeting. They shift with culture, fashion, and external influence, but your patterns are deeply personal, woven into your daily habits, thoughts, and reactions. Reinvention requires courage to look inward and ask, what keeps me from becoming who I want to be? It is not about copying someone else's lifestyle or mimicking the latest advice. It is about noticing the repetitive loops in your own life and deciding to rewrite them. Your patterns are powerful because they operate quietly, often without awareness. The way you handle stress, the excuses you repeat, the habits you default to, all of these shape your reality. You can dress differently, follow new routines, or adopt the newest productivity hack. But if you don't address the patterns beneath the surface, you will always circle back to the same results. Reinvention starts with awareness, noticing the behaviors that no longer serve you and recognizing how they sabotage your progress. Once you see the pattern, you gain the power to break it. Breaking patterns requires both honesty and discipline. It demands that you confront the comfort zones you have built and the justifications you have clung to. It means refusing to let fear, procrastination, or self-doubt dictate your choices any longer. Patterns are broken when you choose to respond differently than you always have. When instead of avoiding discomfort, you lean into it. When instead of delaying action, you take the first step. When instead of repeating the same story, you speak a new one into existence. Trends may inspire you temporarily, but they cannot sustain you. Reinvention is not about adopting someone else's identity. It is about uncovering the strongest, most authentic version of your own. That version emerges only when you stop living on autopilot and start consciously building new patterns of resilience, focus, gratitude, and consistency. These patterns, once practiced, become the architecture of your new identity. Every breakthrough you seek lives on the other side of a broken pattern. The moment you refuse to repeat what has always held you back, you create space for something new to grow. It is not glamorous work, and it is not always visible to others, but it is the kind of transformation that lasts because it comes from the inside out. Trends fade as quickly as they arrive, but the reinvention born from breaking your own patterns becomes permanent, shaping not just how you act today, but who you continue to become tomorrow. Visualize who you want to be until it feels real, because the mind does not distinguish sharply between what is vividly imagined and what is actually experienced. When you hold a clear image of your future self, you are not daydreaming, you are rehearsing for reality. Visualization is a powerful tool because it aligns your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the identity you are working toward. The clearer and more consistent the vision, the more your subconscious begins to accept it as truth, guiding your behavior in ways that move you closer to it. Every great achievement begins first as an image in the mind before it manifests in the world. When you visualize, you create a blueprint of possibility. Seeing yourself disciplined, confident, successful, or at peace makes those qualities feel familiar, which lowers resistance when you step into them in real life. The brain seeks alignment between belief and behavior, so when you vividly imagine your desired self, your actions begin to naturally follow. This is why athletes use mental rehearsal before competitions, and leaders picture their goals as already achieved. It builds a sense of certainty and prepares the body and mind to act accordingly. The key to visualization is detail and emotion. It is not enough to see a vague image of success. You must immerse yourself in it. Picture what you are wearing, how you are speaking, what your surroundings look like. Feel the confidence in your posture, the energy in your movements, the gratitude in your heart. Engage all your senses so that the vision is not just a thought, but an experience. When you feel the emotions tied to your future self, you activate the same neural pathways as if it were happening now, strengthening the belief that it is possible. Over time, repeated visualization rewires your identity. Instead of clinging to the old version of yourself, you begin to embody the new one. Each time you hold that image, it becomes less about wishing and more about remembering who you are becoming. The gap between the present and the future shrinks as you start to live out the qualities you have rehearsed in your mind. This practice builds confidence because you have already seen yourself succeed, making obstacles feel smaller and possibilities feel closer. Visualization is not about escaping reality, but about reshaping it. By seeing and feeling the future version of yourself consistently, you create a mental and emotional compass that guides every choice you make. It keeps you aligned with your highest vision even when circumstances challenge you, because you are no longer reacting to the present, you are living from the future. You have already claimed in your mind. Discipline in one area spills into every part of life. Because when you learn to master yourself in a single domain, the mindset, habits, and strength you cultivate cannot be contained. They naturally overflow into everything else you do. Discipline is not isolated, it is transferable. If you develop consistency in waking up early, you begin to notice improvements in your productivity throughout the day. If you build the discipline to exercise regularly, you often find yourself eating better, sleeping deeper, and approaching challenges with more energy. The power of discipline is that it rewires your relationship with effort, and once you experience the benefits in one area, you instinctively apply them everywhere. The truth is, discipline is less about the specific action and more about who you become by practicing it. When you hold yourself accountable to one commitment, you build self-trust. That trust tells you, if I can keep this promise here, I can keep promises elsewhere. This shift in identity is what creates momentum. A person who proves to themselves that they can stay consistent in small ways begins to see themselves as disciplined overall. That identity then drives behaviors across all aspects of life: career, relationships, health, finances, and personal growth. The spillover effect of discipline also comes from the mental clarity it creates. When you eliminate chaos in one part of your life, your mind learns to value order and focus. For example, the discipline of managing your money responsibly often leads to greater organization in other areas, like planning your time or setting clear priorities. The same mental muscles that resist impulse spending can resist procrastination or distraction. The brain craves congruence, so the more you train discipline in one area, the more uncomfortable it feels to abandon it in another. Discipline is contagious within yourself. A single victory over comfort builds confidence and resilience that you carry into new challenges. If you push through the resistance of a workout, you train yourself to push through the resistance of a difficult project. If you master the discipline of daily reading, you strengthen your ability to focus, which spills into conversations, decision-making, and creativity. Each act of discipline multiplies because it teaches your mind and body the power of persistence. Another reason discipline spreads is because it creates alignment between intention and action. When you stop breaking promises to yourself in one area, you begin to value integrity across all areas. You are no longer satisfied with inconsistency because you know what it feels like to live in alignment. This alignment brings confidence, and confidence makes you bold enough to pursue more, to expect more, and to give more. Discipline is like a ripple in water, small at first, but widening with each layer of impact. The choice to control your habits in one domain may seem personal and contained, but its reach is limitless. The discipline of caring for your body affects your relationships, because you show up with more energy and presence. The discipline of managing your time affects your success, because you accomplish more with less stress. The discipline of controlling your words affects your reputation, because you build trust and respect. Ultimately, discipline in one area becomes proof that you are capable of structure, resilience, and self-control. Once you witness the power of discipline to transform one part of your life, you begin to crave that transformation everywhere. It is never about perfection. It is about momentum, and momentum gained in one area inevitably carries forward, lifting every other part of who you are becoming. Reinvention isn't overnight, but 21 days builds unstoppable momentum. Because transformation is not about dramatic leaps, but about consistent steps that compound into lasting change. Many people imagine reinvention as a single breakthrough moment, a sudden shift where everything becomes different at once. In reality, change is gradual, born from repeated actions that slowly but surely reshape who you are and how you live. 21 days may not be enough to completely redefine your life, but it is long enough to break old cycles, plant new habits, and ignite momentum that becomes difficult to stop. Momentum is the force that carries you beyond discipline, where progress begins to feel natural and automatic. The first days of any reinvention are often the hardest, because the pull of old patterns feels strong. Your mind resists discomfort, your body craves the familiar, and doubt whispers that change may not be possible. But this is exactly where discipline matters most. Each time you push through resistance, you weaken the grip of your old identity and strengthen the foundation of the new one. By the end of the first week, you begin to notice subtle shifts. Your confidence grows, your routines feel a little easier, and your belief in possibility expands. As you continue into the second week, the new behaviors you once struggled with begin to take root. What felt forced at first begins to feel familiar, and the pride of consistency fuels you forward. This is the point where many people give up, thinking results are not dramatic enough. But the truth is that the invisible work is happening beneath the surface. Your brain is wiring new patterns, your body is adapting to new rhythms, and your identity is adjusting to a higher standard. By the third week, something powerful occurs. Momentum begins to take over. The choices that once required immense effort start to feel automatic. You no longer debate whether to follow through. You simply do it because it has become part of who you are. The discipline that was once external becomes internalized, and you begin to crave progress instead of resisting it. At this stage, reinvention shifts from possibility to inevitability, because momentum makes quitting harder than continuing. The beauty of a 21-day focus is that it compresses time into a container where change feels achievable. A lifetime commitment may feel overwhelming, but committing to 3 weeks feels manageable, and yet the impact is profound. What begins as a short-term challenge often sparks a long-term transformation, because once you have tasted progress, you no longer want to return to the old version of yourself. 21 days is not the end of reinvention. It is the launch pad. Reinvention is never about perfection, it is about direction. The power of 21 days is that it gives you undeniable proof that you are capable of change. It shows you that growth is possible, not someday, but today through small, intentional actions compounded daily. Once you build momentum, you realize reinvention is not an impossible dream but a lived reality, unfolding with each choice you make and each day you commit to becoming who you are meant to be. Be kind to yourself. Growth without compassion collapses, because transformation is not sustained by pressure alone, but by the balance of discipline and self-love. Many people believe that growth requires relentless criticism of their flaws, constant pushing without pause, and a voice inside that never lets them rest. While effort and discipline are essential, a lack of kindness eventually causes burnout, self-sabotage, and resentment toward the very process meant to uplift you. Compassion is not weakness. It is the foundation that keeps growth alive when challenges feel overwhelming. Without it, progress may begin, but it cannot last. Kindness toward yourself means recognizing that mistakes and setbacks are part of the journey, not proof of failure. Growth is never a straight line. It bends, stalls, and sometimes moves backward before surging forward again. If you respond to every misstep with harsh judgment, you reinforce shame and fear, which pull you back into old patterns. But if you meet those same moments with compassion, you learn from them, adjust, and keep moving forward with resilience. Being kind to yourself allows you to treat growth as a lifelong practice rather than a race to perfection. Compassion also fuels perseverance. Discipline gets you started, but kindness keeps you going when your motivation wavers. It reminds you that progress is valuable even if it's slow, and that effort counts even when results aren't immediate. Self-kindness creates an environment where you feel safe to experiment, try new things, and take risks without the paralyzing fear of judgment. This openness accelerates reinvention because growth thrives in spaces where mistakes are allowed and lessons are embraced. When you are kind to yourself, you also strengthen your relationship with discipline. Instead of viewing it as punishment, you see it as an act of care, choosing what supports your future self. Waking up early becomes a gift of time, exercising becomes a celebration of strength, and learning becomes nourishment for the mind. Kindness reframes discipline into something empowering rather than restrictive, which makes it far easier to sustain long-term. Self-compassion also nurtures mental and emotional health, which are the backbone of lasting transformation. Reinvention is not just about changing habits or reaching goals. It's about creating a version of yourself that can thrive in all aspects of life. If your mind is filled with constant self-criticism, no achievement will feel fulfilling, and no milestone will bring peace. By practicing kindness, you ensure that growth enhances your well-being instead of depleting it. Being kind to yourself does not mean lowering your standards. It means raising the quality of your relationship with yourself. It means holding yourself accountable while also recognizing your humanity. It means celebrating progress, forgiving delays, and remembering that transformation is not a punishment but a privilege. When growth is rooted in compassion, it becomes sustainable, joyful, and expansive. Without kindness, growth becomes brittle and collapses under its own weight. But with it, growth becomes a lifelong journey of strength, balance, and true reinvention. Every ending is a disguised beginning. Embrace the shift, because life is a series of chapters, not a single story. What feels like a door closing is often the quiet preparation for another to open, one that you could not have seen had you stayed where you were. Endings carry weight, whether it is the conclusion of a relationship, a career, a phase of life, or even a mindset you once clung to. They arrive with grief, uncertainty, and sometimes resistance, because the familiar, even when imperfect, feels safer than the unknown. Yet within every ending lies the seed of renewal, a call to realign with who you are becoming rather than who you have been. The discomfort of an ending often blinds us to its hidden gift. When something finishes, it clears space for growth, for opportunities that couldn't coexist with what has now passed, for a self that is waiting to emerge. Just as seasons change, endings mark the natural rhythm of transformation. The leaves must fall before spring can arrive, and in the same way, certain parts of life must close so that new paths can unfold. If you hold too tightly to what is gone, you miss the chance to evolve into what is waiting. By embracing the shift, you step into a mindset of trust, one that sees endings not as losses but as invitations. Embracing a new beginning does not mean ignoring the emotions endings bring. Grief, sadness, and uncertainty are real and valid, but they coexist with possibility. Allowing yourself to feel the weight of what has ended, while also leaning into curiosity about what comes next, builds resilience. It teaches you that life is not about controlling every outcome, but about trusting your ability to navigate change. When you choose to frame endings as disguised beginnings, you empower yourself to step forward with openness instead of fear. Every ending also challenges identity. You may wonder who you are without the role, the person, or the situation that defined you. This questioning, though uncomfortable, is where reinvention begins. It is in the spaces of uncertainty that you rediscover strength, creativity, and vision for the future. The shift forces you to let go of labels that no longer serve you and redefine yourself on your own terms. This process can feel like loss at first, but it is actually freedom, a return to your true essence, unshackled from what has already run its course. Endings also test your perspective. Some see them as punishment or failure, but others choose to view them as part of a greater unfolding. The stories you tell yourself in these moments matter. If you say, "This is the end," you close yourself off to growth. If you say, "This is where something new begins," you create the mental space to explore new horizons. The shift in mindset shapes your reality, and your willingness to embrace change determines how fully you can experience the opportunities hidden within it. Life does not stand still, and neither should you. By embracing endings as disguised beginnings, you align yourself with the natural flow of change rather than resisting it. Every shift, no matter how daunting, holds the promise of transformation. The final page of one chapter is simply the prologue to the next, and within the transition lies the power to create, to reinvent, and to rise stronger than before. The future you dream of is waiting. Begin your 21-day rule today, because dreams without action remain distant, but disciplined steps transform them into reality. Every person holds within them a vision of the life they wish to live, a picture of success, fulfillment, peace, or freedom. Yet too often, this vision feels out of reach because it is treated as a someday rather than a now. The truth is, the future you crave is not waiting in the distant horizon. It is being shaped in this very moment by the choices you make, the habits you practice, and the standards you hold yourself to. The 21-day rule is not magic, but it is a framework that allows you to align your daily actions with your desired future. And in just 3 weeks of consistent focus, you can set in motion the patterns that will carry you far beyond what you once thought possible. 21 days may seem like a small window compared to the span of a lifetime, Yet science and experience both show that repetition and commitment over this period can rewire the brain, reshape identity, and redefine what you believe is possible. It is not about perfection nor about grand leaps that drain your energy, but about consistent, intentional action. Small changes done daily for 21 days have the power to create momentum that compounds over time. Whether it is waking up earlier, exercising, reading, journaling, or simply shifting your mindset, these consistent actions build a foundation. They send a message to your subconscious: this is who I am now. That identity shift becomes the most powerful fuel for sustaining transformation long after the 21 days have passed. The future you want does not require you to overhaul your entire life overnight. It requires you to commit to showing up today, and then again tomorrow, and again until the days stack into weeks and the weeks into lasting change. The 21-day rule is the bridge between intention and embodiment. It moves you from wishing into becoming. The decision to start is the hardest part because fear, doubt, and procrastination whisper that you are not ready. But readiness is a myth. The only way to be ready is to begin. By starting today, even with one small step, you declare to yourself and to your future and you are serious about change. Momentum is a powerful force, and the beauty of the 21-day rule is that it harnesses it. Each day you complete a small action, you build confidence. Each day you show up, you prove to yourself that you are capable of discipline. Over time, the discipline no longer feels like effort. It feels like identity. You are no longer trying to become someone new. You are simply living as the person you already decided to be. That is how the future you dream of becomes the present you experience. The life you desire will not arrive by accident, nor will it come through waiting for the perfect moment. It will come because you chose to act, because you believed that consistent steps mattered more than fleeting motivation. The 21-day rule is your opportunity to shift your trajectory, to move from wishing to working, from dreaming to doing. Begin today and each day after, and soon the future you dream of will no longer be waiting. It will be unfolding before you, created by your own hands and anchored in your own discipline. Reinvention is not about becoming someone else. It is about shedding the layers that no longer serve you and uncovering the strength, clarity, and vision that have always lived within you. Over these past lessons, you've discovered that transformation is built on small, consistent actions, fueled by discipline, anchored in self-belief, and guided by clarity. You've seen how your environment shapes your growth, how your circle determines your ceiling, and how your words, habits, and decisions carve the path toward your future. The 21-day rule is not just a challenge, it is an invitation, a call to align your daily actions with the life you dream of living. In 3 weeks you can rewire patterns, create unstoppable momentum, and ignite a chain reaction of change that will ripple across every area of your life. Each sunrise is your reset button. Every small win is a step forward, and every challenge is a teacher pulling you closer to your true self. Remember, perfection was never the goal. Progress is. Reinvention thrives on clarity, on the courage to step outside your comfort zone, and on the compassion to be kind to yourself along the way. The future you dream of is already waiting, but it cannot come alive until you act. One decision, one habit, one day at a time, that is the formula for transformation. So take this moment as your turning point. Say yes to your future, yes to your reinvention, and yes to the life you were always meant to live. 21 days is all it takes to prove to yourself that change is possible, that growth is within reach, and that you already hold the power to create the story of your life.